Welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. In our previous class, we looked at the marine habitat, which is a subdivision of the aquatic habitat. Today, we'll be looking at the second part, which is estuarine habitats.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
Estuarine habitat is a body of water formed at coast as the result of the action of tides, which mix salt water from the sea with fresh water from the land. The mixing of salt and fresh water results in the formation of what we call brackish water. This brackish water is what we now refer to as estuarine. We are looking at the types of estuarines. We have delta, lagoon, and bay. So we'll be taking it one after the other. Number one, we have delta. A delta is a river that divides into many channels before entering into the ocean or sea. The delta is always formed at the mouth of the river as it enters the sea. Another type we'll be looking at is the lagoon. The lagoon is a body of water which enters into the land through a canal and therefore has the opportunity of mixing with fresh water. Another type we'll be looking at is the bay. The bay is a little or small portion of the sea which enters into the land and mixes up with the fresh water. So this is the image of different types of estuarine. Now let's look at the characteristics of estuarine habitat. Do not forget that when I was explaining that of marine habitat, I told the learners to take note that do not just write size, density. Always explain your characteristics in a sentence. Now, for estuarine habitat, there is fluctuation in salinicity. That means the concentration of salt fluctuates. Number two, it is what? Shallow. It is an habitat or a habitat that has shallowness of water. Number three, there are what? Low species diversity, unlike the marine habitat, which is the largest of all habitats, can accommodate a lot of species. But in the estuarine habitat, it has what? Low species diversity. Number four, there is high level of nutrients found in the estuarine habitat. Number five, here in this estuarine habitat, we have low oxygen content, unlike that of the marine habitat where we have high oxygen content. Let's look at the plant species found here. We have the diatoms, we have the red mangrove, white mangrove, and the algae. So this is an example of the red mangrove and the white mangrove found in the estuarine habitat. Now we are moving on to the animals found in estuarine habitats. We have the mosquito larvae, we have the crabs, we have the shrimps, we have the worms, we have the fishes, and we have the mud skippers. This is an example of a prawn, fish, and worm found there. Now let's move on to the food chain. Like I explained earlier on, that the food chain is a feeding or linear feeding relationship that shows how the energy flows from the producer to the final consumer. And whenever we are talking of the food chain must start with a producer. In this case, now the producer is what? The detritus is the producer of the estuarine habitat. The worms will feed on the detritus, the snails will feed on the worm, while the birds, which are the final consumer, will feed on the snail. This is a typical example of a food chain in an estuarine habitat. What are the factors that affect estuarine habitats? We have the wind, we have temperature, relative humidity, light, and the pH. So these are the practice questions for you to do. I will give you 2 minutes to do this. So let's do this together. Number 1 question says, explain how the estuarine habitat is formed. Number 2 says, list 3 plants and animals found each in the estuarine habitat. Number 3 says, name a food chain found in the estuarine habitat. And number 4 says, mention 4 factors affecting the estuarine habitat. So let's do this together. You can cross-check with what you have written down. Estuarine habitat is formed as a result action of the mixing of salt water in the sea with the fresh water from the land. So that is how estuarine is formed. The next question says, list 3 plants and animals that can be found. 3 plants that can be found here, we have the diatoms, we have the algae, and we have the red mangrove. 3 crabs, 3 animals that can be found. We have the crabs, we have worms, and we have the mud skipper. Then the next question says that we should name or we should write a food chain that can be found here. Like I explained earlier, a food chain must start with a producer, which is what the detritus that feeds on which the worm feeds on. Then the snail would also feed on the worm, while the birds will feed on the snail. The birds are known to be the final consumer. The next question says you should mention factors affecting estuarine. We have the temperature, we have the wind. I hope you've learned from today's lesson. For any contribution, for any questions, for any comments, you can send it to our social media handle that will be displayed on the screen. So we meet again. Bye.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects: mathematics, English language, physics, chemistry, and biology, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates on this station. Learners can also connect with Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.